Hello everyone, I am Nelly. Welcome to this session today, and it's on fear of failure. Today, there are 4 things that I'll talk about. One is, what is the fear of failure? The second is the causes, the signs, and how to manage with the fear of failure. So, number 1, what is the fear of failure? This is an irrational and persistent fear that you will not succeed in what you want to do or what you aim at doing. It could be something that you have done previously, but you have that fear. And sometimes, if you look at the past or the things that you've done in the past, you've actually succeeded. But there are other things that make you to fear that you will fail. And because of that fear, it stops you from doing things, stops you from trying new things, stops you from doing the things that you have done previously. And if you look at it in your life, it has stopped you in many things. Probably because of the fear of failure, you just stay behind. You don't want to take the action to do the things that you really want to do, and you still have the desires. So then the next point is, what causes the fear of failure? Sometimes it starts from our childhood, because when growing up as children, we are dependent and rely on the adults in our family or those who are much older. It could be our parents, our older siblings, teachers, and just people in our community. Probably we did not have support, and probably those around us used to tell us that we are failures. Just for instance, if as a child you do something wrong, you make a mistake, and say the adult or the elder in your environment tell you, you are stupid because you can't do this, you can't do that. At that instant, you feel so terrified. You blame yourself and you make a decision. Probably that because you don't want to fail in anything that you want to do, you will not take action. You will ask for help. And that decision that you take at that time will cost you a lot in your life, because without realizing, that decision is stored in your unconscious mind, and you keep using it for years and years. And when you find yourself in a situation where, say, a new challenge or a new situation, you will step back and you will feel defeated before you even start. And without realizing that it was a decision you made several years ago, and you are still dwelling on it. So the next point is, it could be from past failures. Sometimes when we fail in certain things that we want to do, we beat up ourselves. We blame ourselves, without realizing that failure is part of life, and it is a learning point, because we fail and we learn from those failures. Because if all your life you are passing in whatever you do without struggling, you might not learn properly. But then when you decide that whatever you fail at is a learning point, then you will realize that you will not be beating yourself up when you fail. And the next cause is perfectionism. We want to do things very, very perfect. We want to do things as we are told. We want to do things in a certain way, which means we are not flexible. And because we want to do things very perfect, if it doesn't go the way that we want, then we consider that we have failed in that task. And then again, we beat up ourselves, which is not helpful, because we keep on with that same attitude, and it draws us back from the things that we can do. So go to the next point, point 3. The signs. How do you know you have a fear of failure? The first sign is you start to worry what people think about you. If someone says something negative about you, you capitalize on that negative thing and say, oh, I know I'm a failure because this person has said that, this person has said this. And then you just want to avoid them. You worry about your ability to pursue your goal. You have a goal, yes. You know that goal you need to struggle. There will be some portions that you will struggle with. But when you have that fear, you start doubting your abilities, which you know you have the talent, you have the skills, but that fear, which is why at the beginning I said is an irrational thought that you will fail. So if you keep thinking too much that you will be a failure, you are storing that in your subconscious mind. And actually, you might be saying that you want to succeed, but in your mind, you are acknowledging that you want to fail. So then the result you get is the failure. You worry that you will lose the interest of people. And because you have that fear, you are doing just the opposite of what you really, really intend. You worry how smart you are and how capable you are in achieving things. So these are some of the signs that you have a fear of failure. You also fear that you will be a disappointment to people. And you worry too much what those people will interpret about you, what they will say, what they will think. You project failure even before you start the activity that you want to do. So it's like you give up before you even start. And then the end result is the failure because you don't even have faith in yourself. You doubt your capacity, you doubt your capabilities, you doubt the skills, you doubt even what you have done in the past that you were successful, you doubt it. So you keep reminding yourself, or you bring things to mind that, oh, you will fail because of. You bring all sorts of excuses to yourself. And then because you have that negative thinking, that negative mindset, you struggle even to imagine yourself succeeding. So again, it results to the failure. You feel so anxious when you are about to take action, or probably just thinking about what is ahead of you, what you need to do. Sometimes it leads to physical symptoms like tummy ache, headache. You are just so anxious. And because you are so anxious, your thinking is so narrow and focused mainly on the failure rather than what actions you need to take to succeed. You have all sorts of distraction that will take you away from what you actually want to do. And even taking those actions, you will not take those actions. You will procrastinate that I will do it when you bring in some other thing that you will do. I will just do this little thing before I get to it. All of that is procrastination. And at the end, you don't even do it. You don't even prepare for the task ahead of you. And the result is failure. Remember, all of these are irrational beliefs. They are irrational and persistent thoughts that you have in your head. It's different from the actual reality. The next is, how then do you manage with the fear of failure? Number one is, own your fear. Ask yourself, where is all this fear coming from? When was the first time you realized that you had that fear of failure? Try to think of the instant that fear of failure came from. And then provide evidence to yourself that actually you are not a failure because you have succeeded in some other things. But the thing is, when you have this fear of failure, you find it really, really hard to identify or to acknowledge the things that you have done well, the things that you have succeeded in. It is easier for you to say, oh, I got that because it was simple, I was lucky, and things like that. You take it out from yourself. So when you fail, own your fear. When you fail, own your fear. Because it is not the outside world that has made that fear. It's you. It is a choice that you made. I know it's really hard to hear that you made a choice to have that fear of failure. But if you look into it, it is a decision that you made and you keep living that decision. But when you own that fear, you tell yourself again that regardless of what, even if I fail, it is me. Make yourself decide that if you fail, you will learn from that experience. Because when we fail, like Lisa Nichols says, that when we fail forward because it is a learning opportunity. And she explains that when you fail forward, it means that next time, if you are to do that same activity, you will avoid doing the same action that you took when you failed. Instead, you take the next step forward, which is why she says, we fail forward and not compared to some other person who did not take action as well. So when they want to take action, they might take the action and fail at that stage that you were there previously. So that's the difference. So take action anyway, even if you fail. Take what lessons have you learned from there. It is a learning opportunity and not a situation to beat yourself up. Another point is focus on your goal. Let your goal be your motivation to stay focused so you move forward, because there will always be distraction, and especially if you have that fear of failure. Like I've talked of procrastination, you will be thinking, oh, I want everything to be perfect before I take action. But the question you ask yourself is, actually, when will things be perfect? And it can take you years, decades, you realize that things are not perfect. But then, when? So if you think of something, take action anyway, considering that if you fail, it will be a learning opportunity. Another point is focus on the things that are within your control. It is common that people want to control everything, which is clear failure. But if you focus on what you can control, the things that you can control are within you. For instance, you can decide that you will not be nervous. Work on calming down yourself. Work on relaxing yourself, rather than you trying to control things out of yourself. Let's say you want someone to change. You blame a situation that it's because of that situation I am feeling the way I'm feeling. No. If there's a situation that you don't like, you cannot change that situation. Adapt and think about how you can change what is making you not happy about that situation. You can change within you rather than wanting the external to change. Because if you change within you, that situation might still be the same or even worse or even better. But the way you will interpret that incident or that situation will be different. You'll realize that you might not be emotionally involved with that situation as compared to the way you were involved previously, where you found that you were being wound out by that situation. But if you control the things within you, then you approach that situation in a very different way. When you fail, do not personalize the failure, because it's a learning point. I'll just share a bit about myself here, about this personalizing failure. I remember when I did my social work degree, where I did my placement, 100 days placement, there was a job opportunity that was available. I was really excited because the team was really, really supportive. I applied for that job. I was invited for the interview. I went. The interview was really good because the manager, I'd known the manager, so it was really nice because I was smiling. Everyone, the panel, they were really welcoming and were smiling. So at the end of that interview, I went home because they had other candidates to interview. I was patiently waiting for my phone to ring, and later that evening, my phone rang. It was the manager at the placement, and she said whatever she said, and she said, Nelly, unfortunately, that position was given to someone else. Just as I heard that, I didn't even remember. I couldn't even understand what else she was saying. She said so many other things, and then I only realized when she said, okay, bye, and then I said bye. Initially, I was really disappointed. I felt that, oh, if I'm not given that job, if I have done my 100 days placement there and they cannot give me the job, where else can I find another job? So I was really disappointed. Initially, I considered that I was a failure. But then I did a lot of reflection. And it was in that period of me doing my reflection that I started, it was like I was playing back the tape with the conversation I had with my manager at that time because I was so overwhelmed. So then, when I was doing that reflection, I was writing down. She said, and then I was also thinking of the questions that they asked me at the interview. And then I was like, I wrote down so many information, and I was like, okay, I know that I am not a failure, because so now I started justifying to myself that I'm not a failure because I had done several other jobs successfully for a number of years. So it doesn't mean that I'm a failure. It was just that I had to prepare much better. And one of the explanations that my manager gave me was that the job was given to someone who had more than 2 years of post-qualification experience. So I was like, okay, to prepare for the next interview, I will have to go through the questions, study them, and put in more information. And that was what I did. So if you fail, don't take it personal. It might be helpful for you to do reflection so you realize that you are not the failure. It was a circumstance and you can learn from that experience. Another one is feel inspired by what you want to become. So again, like myself, I was very focused that I wanted to be a social worker. And my focus was on the job that I wanted to do. And not actually the job itself, but what I wanted to gain from the job. Because I wanted to work with children and families, and also that experience to support other people to be empowered. That was my focus. If you get to the stage where you really, really struggle, seek professional help. It's good to explain your situation with family and friends, but the downside is professional experience is very different from what family and friends have, because they don't have that exposure to certain knowledge. They will provide you with information that you will not feel supported, and you will just continue with that fear of failure. And also, one major thing is be gentle to yourself. You don't have to beat up yourself when you fail. It's a failure, yes. It's not the end of the world. I know it might sound harsh, but that's just the actual truth. Because you can aim and get another job, like my case, but your life, you don't have a duplicate. So be gentle to yourself. Do whatever you can do to keep yourself calm, to get your mind off that situation so you can calm down. Because if you stay in that negative feelings, emotions for a long time, your thinking will be narrowed, and it will really affect you, because it can affect your sleep, it can affect your appetite, You can even have physical symptoms because that is anxiety, stress. So please be gentle to yourself. I've got some questions here that you can ask yourself when you failed in something. Just 3 questions. 1, what have I learned from that failure? What have I learned from that failure? It's good to write it down, not just thinking about it in your head. Write what you have learned from that situation. Write it down. You might want to write it down and keep it to rest for a bit. And then you come back and read over it. You will be amazed what you find. The next one is, how can I grow from that experience? Again, it's what you have learned. So what you have learned, how will you implement it? That is how it will make you grow. So that's the second question that you ask yourself. And the last question is, how would I handle a similar situation in the future, but in a different way? So when you write down what you've learned from that experience and how you can grow, you write a different way that you could have approached that situation. Just in preparation, you face the same situation next time. So I can imagine that so many others, but I can't discuss all of them here. But these are the things that I wanted to discuss with you today. So we've heard about what fear of failure is, the causes, the signs, and how to manage with the fear of failure. So if you want to know more about the fears, don't hesitate to get in contact with me. You might want to share it with your friends or family or people whom you think are really, really struggling, especially with fear, because it stops us to be the people or the person we really want to do. It stops us from doing many things because deep down within us, we know that we have a lot of talents, we have abilities, we have skills, but fear stops us and we just hide at the corner and don't want to show up because we fear that we will fail, when in actual fact it's not the case. So thank you so much for watching today, and if you have any questions, if you are watching on replay, just type replay and ask your questions or write down your comments. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you next week for another session on fear. Thank you so much and stay blessed. Bye-bye.